This is another How to Succeed podcast. We're talking about how to succeed with ChatGPT with Jordan Ledwin, one of our Sandler trainers and the AI sales guy. You can find him on LinkedIn, Jordan Ledwin, or just find more information about Sandler at sandler.com. We've got a ton of free resources. We have 2 previous webinars with Jordan, a previous podcast. We have a white paper download of our top ChatGPT prompts. Lots of resources. Go look at that Insights tab of sandler.com. The following podcast copyrighted by Sandler Systems, LLC, and protected by U.S. copyright laws. Again, this is How to Succeed with ChatGPT and Jordan Ledwin. All right, Jordan, tell me a little bit here about the current state of ChatGPT. We're recording here at the end of 2023, and there's been lots of updates. It started gangbusters at the end of last year. And now I feel like ChatGPT specifically has added a ton of features here in the last release. So where do you feel like the state of it is?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Mike. And it's a lot further along than the last time we spoke. And I think I was looking at it the other day. I think it was late February. We talked about all this the first time. And if you've been paying attention since then, it's been 9 months or so, and a lot has changed, right? So I think last I checked, if you're trying to get ChatGPT Plus, you actually can't upgrade right now because they're at capacity with how many users have requested their paid version after their last update. So they're not slowing down by any means, and lots of movement with the actual application, and even from a structural standpoint with OpenAI and some of the founders there, and some changing pieces and recent activity happening there. So a lot to keep up with, a lot happening, but it's definitely exciting.
Tell me about some of the tools. I know they've added web crawling in with Microsoft Bing, and they've added the DALL-E images and stuff, so it can create images for you and stuff. Were those acquisitions or part of the same thing? How did these new features, even the separate chatbots, are something that we saw other people develop off OpenAI, and now you can create your own custom instructions and custom chatbots with limited knowledge or specific instructions within it too. Tell us a little bit about some of the new tools.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of them are partnerships that have kind of originated over the last 6 to 9 months. And really the first thing that happened was ChatGPT, or GPT-4, came out. And the difference between GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 is GPT 3.5 can only deal with text, right? So it's only words or actual natural language like that, where GPT-4 is multimodal. So it can take in images, and it can decipher what might be going on in the image as well as text. And then, so that happened. Then there's the partnership with Microsoft and OpenAI, which has definitely been a big part of OpenAI and ChatGPT over the last 9 months. And so because Microsoft has Bing, they included the ability to browse with Bing. So when you're actually using ChatGPT Plus, the paid version now, you can use browse with Bing and actually be pulling information from the internet, which was one of the biggest holdbacks or fallbacks on ChatGPT, was you couldn't browse anything past 2021. Now you can, right? So there's that, and there's the DALL-E connection, and DALL-E is simply another application owned by OpenAI, where ChatGPT is kind of focused on the text generation. DALL-E is focused on image generation. So you can now go right into ChatGPT, select DALL-E, and say, make me or generate me an image of a cute dog in the winter or whatever, right? And it will make it whatever. And you can say, make it happier, make it colder, make it sunnier, whatever you want. And it will just continue to adjust that image as you talk to it. So lots of changes for sure.
I like that the cute dogs in the snow are what's on your mind this morning on a Monday morning, Jordan.
Yeah, might as well. All right.
Let's talk about, for salespeople here, then what's the ideal attitude for salespeople, and how should we be thinking about this as we approach our work in day-to-day sales?
So I think, funny enough, that the same attitude I talked about in February is the same thing today. It's just to be a continuous learner. And in Sandler, we always talk about kind of the path to mastery, right? It starts at awareness, then you develop some knowledge, and then you start to get some skills once you start to apply it. And really, that's what I think the focus needs to be, is developing those skills and trying to use ChatGPT for this or for that, and just testing it out in your own workflow, or how you go to business, or prospect or set meetings, and see what works, see what doesn't work. And that's really the only way you're going to learn how to use it for yourself, or become a master of AI or ChatGPT, but it's about just continuing to try it out, see what else is out there, see what other people are trying, maybe give it your own twist and see if that works for you or not.
Yeah, and specifically in sales, I know we've talked a ton of these attitudes before on previous podcasts. So I would still recommend people go check those out. They're not outdated, still great stuff in there. But what do you think? I mean, we are kind of under the philosophy that AI will not replace salespeople, but it's enhancing salespeople's, data and interaction and ability to communicate and stuff. There's a lot of automation, time saving things. What do you feel like as we sit here at the end of 2023 are the biggest advantages for salespeople?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was recently hearing someone talk about what they were calling augmented intelligence. And this was a kind of eye-opening for me. And we've already been talking about it. We just haven't called it this. And so if you take the example of driving a car, right? Human intelligence is you're driving a car from the 80s or the 90s where there's no features, there's no lane assist, there's no AI being used in that car. You're turning the key, cranking it up, and it's going where you need to go. If you have power steering, you might be lucky, but you're doing all the work manually, right? And then you have artificial intelligence, which is essentially a Tesla, right? You go in, you put in your destination, and it goes to your destination. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to drive. You don't have to push the gas. And then you have what's called augmented intelligence, which is most cars on the road today, right? So you get in, you turn the key, you're driving down the road, but then it stops for you before you hit that car in front of you, or it beeps at you when you go into that other lane, or different little features like that use artificial intelligence, but they use it to support your decision making. So you're still the one in control, but you just have all these little beeps and sounds and keeping you in your lane. And that's how I think of how I like to use artificial intelligence the best in my business and sales process. And I think that's how others should use it as well, is more so augmented intelligence, right? Not fully relying, hey, artificial intelligence, do all of this for me and replace me, but help me understand where I need to stay in my lane, what things I could do, just to, again, make it a lot easier and more efficient and effective in how I'm prospecting or selling.
I like that. And I like the analogy of staying in your lane, because I think we need to think about this with technology a lot, is like, what is the lane for technology? We don't want AI necessarily communicating with our best customers,
Right.
or, responding to a customer success situation that requires empathy and creativity and problem solving. But we don't necessarily want humans spending all day doing data entry and stuff
Exactly.
either. So can we talk about some of the behaviors for salespeople here? I know in the past we've talked about things like the call recording, call notes, automated reminders, updating CRM information, or appending our CRM information with cooler insights. Any other tools or ways that you use those things together that you think we need to mention?
Yeah, I think the behavior is right in line with the attitude, and it's treating technology like a teammate. Something that Gartner said in one of their articles that I stumbled across a few months ago that I really liked. It's how do we use this as essentially an assistant, right, or a member of our team? And like you said, hey, humans, we're good at some things that computers just can't do, right? Emotional intelligence, creativity, generalizing, different things like that. But also tech is good at things that we may not be good at, like ingesting massive data sets and not getting tired of reading through lines of code or thousands of lines of code, or repetitive tasks or different things there, to where we don't even necessarily want to be doing that as sales reps, right? So I think a lot of this it's looking at how many steps are in our sales process from start to finish. What do those look like? And where can we start to use AI and automation to either remove steps entirely or make them take half the amount of time they used to, or whatever that looks like? It's figuring out, what does that look like and how can we work together with technology to make our lives easier?
Can you give us some more detail on that? How have you answered that question? Where in the sales process do you think you can use AI?
Yeah, so I think it could be as simple as, hey, I have someone, a new lead came in, right? Industrial automation industry. I kind of know what that means, but not really, right? So I'm just going to go over to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you help me understand what are some trends and things happening this year in the industrial automation industry, right? Because we now have Bing powering ChatGPT. It's going to give me updated information. And then I can start to have a quick conversation, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and become very well informed on that industry. And any sales rep knows that the better you know your client and your customer and the problems they deal with, the better you're going to be able to solve their problems, right? So it's just different little things like that. Or it's like, hey, if these are the things that he's struggling with, what are some different ways that my solution might be able to help? And here are 3 things that my solution can do. Can you tie these to their pains? And really just start to get some ideas around it so that you're not walking into a meeting with no information or no knowledge, right? And I think that's where sales has changed a little bit. You can't just show up to a meeting anymore and not know anything about your buyer, anything about what they want, what they're interested in. I mean, they're expecting a level of savviness and a level of research that when you show up, they're already 80-90% of the way potentially to making a decision. They want you to be at least have some knowledge on who they are, what their challenges are, and how you can probably work together to solve them.
I'd love it if you'd chime in with some of your conversations in the notes below too. Leave a comment on YouTube or on LinkedIn here. How are you using AI and specifically ChatGPT in your sales calls? Jordan, I think as we move to techniques here too, I feel like there's still a lot we're still unpacking that maybe people aren't familiar with at all. So let's talk about ingesting that information or note taking, and that I don't think a lot of people, that's one of my favorite tricks and techniques and tips are because I do so many podcasts and long webinar recordings and stuff. And I can just upload the whole recording or the transcript or just the audio to some sort of AI tool or specifically the transcript to ChatGPT and say, summarize these notes, write a description of it, set an agenda for the next meeting, or tell me what the next steps were or what they agreed to the budget. And we can all of a sudden start asking ChatGPT all kinds of questions about what happened in this meeting or this series of meetings, or in, 32 hours of recorded sales training we've done with this client. We can start recapping some of the top questions from their salespeople and stuff. That's really powerful insights that we haven't had access to before, right? What are your thoughts on it?
It is, and I think that ChatGPT, we talk about it because it's a really good opportunity for someone to kind of step in and say, hey, what is AI? How do we use it? But it might not be the most applicable form of AI for your use case and using it to sell, right? So for me, kind of going back to that process piece, I'll open up, before I have a meeting, I open up their website, I open up their LinkedIn, right? I use buyer intelligence tools that are powered by AI like Humantic or Crystal to pull in buyer intelligence, understand how I might want to communicate with them. And then I'll look at their website, scrape that a little bit just with my eyes. And then I can also use Bing, which they just actually rebranded to Copilot. So I'm still getting used to calling it that now, but Copilot, right? And you can open that and get some different insights on that company or that website or different news articles or different things there. So just being able to do research quicker, right? So that's a big help for me. And then once I jump in that meeting, a lot of my meetings are virtual, right? So for me, like you said, I record all of my meetings with virtual recording tools that just jump in my meetings automatically. I don't even do anything. I just show up to the meeting and it jumps right in there. It records the whole thing. It sends me an email after and says, hey, recording's ready. Here are your next steps that you need to do for the follow-up. Now there's tools where you can just click and say, hey, I want to write an AI email, and it writes it based off the entire context of the meeting, right? And so these things are getting extremely useful to now my meeting follow-up, my meeting note-taking. I mean, I've said this a few times. It's been over a year since I've taken notes on a virtual call, and that is life-changing for me. And it also puts all this into my CRM, right? So just like I was talking about, I'm trying to figure out what are my steps in my process, right? And how can I start to use AI tools to start to just remove some of them or cut down on how long they take or how much effort they take me, because I'm a sales rep. It might be because I'm lazy or because I want to be efficient, but I want to make it easy. So figuring out how I can take some of these steps out that used to take a lot of time has been a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, there's this process that we're talking about of like, we might need to train the AI a little bit of like what we're expecting, what our language, our tone is, what information we want it to work from. And then we can start getting stuff out of it that's better. So I don't know what we're calling it these days, but like prompt engineering, but also like just training the AI is we can give it this call and then we can ask questions about it back. And if we've set up some custom instructions, and you can tell me what some of your favorites are and stuff, we could say, write a 30-second commercial for a pitch on this product that would fit this customer. And as long as it knows about the product and the customer, it can do a really good job doing that. And we can give it the tone of voice or professionalism that we want. I'm also thinking we can say, what questions should I ask? Based on what you heard happened in these last 5 meetings, what questions should I ask in the next meeting? And we don't have to ask them all, and they might not all be great, but you never know when you get that one that you go, oh man, I can't believe I didn't think of that, and it's going to save my deal. That's time well spent.
That's exactly what it is. It's not saying, hey, let me get a list of questions that I can print off and take to my next meeting. It's like, let me just talk out loud for a second with someone who can, or something that can give some different opinions or different ideas that may not necessarily be that creative outside of what we thought of, but just a different spin on it. Right. And so, yeah, to back up a second, because I know that some people are using ChatGPT every day. Some people still haven't logged in and they're just waiting. It's still free. You can still get ChatGPT, the free version, use the GPT 3.5 and still get a lot of use out of it. You can log in with your Gmail account or just sign up. Just Google OpenAI and ChatGPT. And it should pop up for you. But once you get logged in, what Mike is talking about is there's an area where you can set custom instructions. And these custom instructions allow you to, instead of at the very beginning of your prompt saying, hey, here's who I am, this is how I sell, this is all the information I want you to know. Instead, you feed it into essentially the brain. So every single prompt knows this, right? So you're basically telling it, who are you? What do you do? And what do you want to accomplish, right? So I tell it that I'm a Sandler trainer. I like to focus on AI. I have a newsletter on AI. I want to help people learn how to combine AI and methodology, selling methodology, to really capitalize on the best of both worlds, right? And so it has all this information on me, nothing too proprietary or personal or anything that I want to keep that private, but just general information so that it has that context now every time it responds to me now. And it will call me Jordan, and which it might be a little creepy or it might be a little cool. I'm not sure yet, but it's just providing some extra context for every conversation you have with it is big.
It's weird that I make mine call me Awesome Mike. I love that. I think also I'm a content creator, obviously, for Sandler here. So we can create all kinds of social media posts and content and educational things. It could be your presentation. It could be email formats. It can be invites to webinars and other things that it can help you write. That's a huge benefit for me. One of the things that I found recently with the pro version there is that I can kind of have it use analogies or explain things in different ways. And that to me is extremely powerful when you're talking about connecting with buyers or clients in a way, and be like, I'm explaining this, but can you explain the new Sandler sales development series, but use an analogy or metaphor for the construction industry?
Yeah, I love
and then
that.
It'll say, this is like having a toolkit of different wrenches and crowbars and things that you can use to move whatever. And it'll write something in a way that I couldn't have done or couldn't have done very easily without a lot of effort mentally and emotionally and intellectually. How do you think about writing, creating, or outgoing messages? Do you think there's any part of this tool that's helpful for salespeople, not necessarily, marketers like myself?
Yeah, I do. But, to your point, I think, something that we say in Sandler, one of the Sandler rules, and one of my favorites actually, is your value as a salesperson is not based on the information that you dispense, but the information that you gather, right? So from a content creation standpoint, AI is fantastic. It can create and generate text and images and videos and make that a very easy process. But as sales reps, we're trying to get information in, right? We're not trying to push information out necessarily. Sometimes we are. It depends where we're at, where the buyer's at in their journey, and so on and so forth. But for me, I took one of our Talogy caliper exams, and I realized my active listening is a 23 out of 99, which my mother could have probably told you that already, but it sucked to see that was actually the case. That's why I love my virtual recording software so much, because I realized I'm just not a very good natural listener. I wish I was, but I have too many conversations with myself in my head to listen to everyone else at the same time. So when I'm on these calls and I have this AI tool recording the call and breaking down the notes for me, it's doing a better job than what I was going to do, right? And I'm able to go back and look at it and look at different snippets that basically supplement some of my weaknesses or my natural opportunities to improve. so that I'm really using the strengths of technology and to kind of fill in some of my gaps. And I just think that with those two things and using it in that way, it can be extremely powerful.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I use it to cover my spelling and grammar mistakes too, and just say, write this better or proofread this, and you can paste in the email you're going to send, and
Hmm.
it'll help you out right away with those kind of things. I like that concept of
And
looking at the things that you're not great at and
I don't know
augmenting
that
the
I
support.
directly answer your question. So just to get back to it real quick, I think you can create some general emails with ChatGPT. You might not want to copy and paste them. I've gotten to the point where I can prompt it well enough to where I could copy and paste it. That is possible, but you have to know how to ask it those questions to get that response. But I think there's a lot of other tools like virtual meeting assistants or like behavioral intelligence tools or deal intelligence tools where it's really providing insights to the sales rep to make better decisions, to ask better questions, to it's really empowering them to do their job better or trying to take some of the things off their plate if possible, where we're not out there generating content all day long. We're just trying to put all these pieces together, and it can be a pretty complex puzzle for some sales, some organizations. Their sales process is not simple, but AI can help streamline a lot of that.
Anything else in your work with salespeople that we haven't mentioned yet? I know we've hinted at the deal analytics, but any other like basic starter tips and tricks that you find people are just loving when you're teaching salespeople about this around the country?
Well, I think everyone's looking for a silver bullet, and I wish I had one. I really do, but it's just about using it. And if you start using it today, you'll be ahead in 3 months. I guarantee you, because it's still not too late. It's still early, and it's still going to be early for probably a little bit longer. But I think it's just about getting in there and trying to figure out where can I actually use this in my process, right? And I've worked with a few companies to just start to use one tool, right? Maybe it's just Humantic, and they just start to look at people's disc profile before they go into a meeting with them, and the impact that can have is incredible, right? Because it just changes your frame of mind. It changes the questions you're going to ask. It changes how quickly you build trust. It changes how long your deals take to close. All of these different things. So I think that the thing is, find out, what does your process look like? What part of that process don't you like to do? And then get on Google or get on ChatGPT and start to look and say, are there AI tools or technology that can supplement this or support it and make my life easier? And just start there and start one at a time.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love what you said about the head start. I think we're at this time, and I'm really excited that it's happened again because when I was your age, Jordan, social media popped up onto the scene, and I happened to be in radio, and I felt like I got a head start because in radio we had this huge audience we wanted to connect with, and I had thousands of followers instantly, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Had a huge head start that gave me an advantage for a long time. Probably even still to this day, I still get asked to,
Hmm.
do speeches about it, and I get paid for Sandler to do community engagement. But this is an opportunity for everybody else right now. This is still, we're only a year in, and still, I think the majority of salespeople, sales leaders, and thought leaders in your industry haven't really jumped on the bandwagon yet. We're
I
still at the
agree.
front of this wave. So now's your chance. Get involved with ChatGPT, start figuring it out for you and for your company. And you can ride this wave for the next 10, 15 years of your career because it's not going away. It's something that we need to learn how to use and leverage. We've mentioned several tools that we didn't explain. Humantic AI is a tool that will supplement your CRM records with the personality of the buyer that you're looking at. DLIQ is a Sandler product with Octus IQ that will tell you your chances of winning a deal using AI and deal intelligence and the parts of the deal that you're missing that could
Hmm.
increase your chances of winning it and stuff. Lots of other tools we've been looking at. Jordan's been helping us explore them. And so if you want help with figuring it out, talk to your local Sandler trainer. Go to Sandler.com, click on find a location, or talk to our enterprise team if you have more than one location. Of course, you can subscribe to Jordan's newsletter on LinkedIn, the AI Sales Guy, or reach out to us on LinkedIn as well. It's Sandler.com, ton of free resources, as I mentioned earlier. And the last one, I almost forgot. Jordan will be speaking about this at our Sandler Summit coming up in March 19th and 20th in Orlando, Florida. Tickets are on sale and they're the lowest price they are ever going to be. So go get your tickets right now. Join us in March. We're talking about the next evolution of sales. So not only AI, but tech, evolution, the industry, training, how things are developing, and adult learners and the modern buyer journey, all kinds of cool enhancements and investments happening there that we can tell you about at the Sandler Summit. Jordan, any other final thoughts?
No, I just thanks again for having me on. It's an exciting topic. It's moving so quickly and it's a little bit overwhelming, I think, at the same time. But the things that we're doing today with AI were not possible 6 months ago. And I can't wait to talk at this summit and talk about the things that are possible in March of 2024 that aren't possible today. So I think, just thanks for listening. If you tuned in, excited that you're open to being a continuous learner and trying to figure some of this stuff out, because there's a lot of value if you can understand how to use it for yourself and your company. And I think it's worth the investment.
Thank you. Again, that's Jordan Ledwin, Sandler. Summit. Until next time, whatever you are, be a good one. That's what I always say. The How to Succeed podcast brought to you by Sandler, the worldwide leader in sales management and customer service training. For more information, go to sandler.com.